Hi felters and welcome. So this video is to accompany my Highland cow kit. You can buy it on Etsy and on my website. Links are all in the description. So let's get started. So we're going to be making the multicoloured one, and this is the kit. So if you want to know all the wools and everything I use and you haven't purchased the kit, just pop on to my website and you can buy the PDF on its own. But in the kit, you'll get instructions if you prefer written instructions, needle codes, a little bit about myself. That card is going to change slightly, and all the wools that you need. So that's a core wool. We'll just pop that out. We're going to divide things up in a minute, which is what I want you to do as soon as you get your kit. These are the two coat colours. You do not need to divide those because they are for each cow. And I've already made this cow, so this is what we're aiming for. They're so cute, so sweet, great presents, great to keep for yourself, and they really are my best sellers. So that's that colour. Then this is for the face and the ears and the back of the tail. So the head bit underneath, you need quite a bit for the head and just a little bit for the ears and the tails. And then this is for the horns. So you can do a nice set of horns. This is for the nostrils. So that's the light colour, and then this is the little dark colour for the actual nose bits. So those are your wools. Then you will also find finger guards. Now, if you're a beginner, if you have not felted before, please wear your finger guards. There is a thumb one and a first finger one. So pop them on the hand that you will be holding the wool in, not the hand that holds the needles, because you want to protect your fingers when you're stabbing. So not the hand that holds the needles. I won't be using them, but they're in there for you. I wore them probably for about a week when I first started. These are the pipe cleaners. You should have 4 horns, and the tail. They're on the inside just to help you keep the formation. And then this is your mat. So this is a foam mat. It's a nice thick one, and it should, last you a couple of months at least. And then these are your needles. And I get my needles from Heidi Feathers, and that's what the code is for, to tell you what needles what. The top of the needles have a colour on them, and it's all colour coded. So, and I'll talk through the needles as we go. You've got a blue one, a red one, and a green one. So I keep them in the mat like that, and we're going to get everything out, and we're going to split. Well, what you need to do, I'm not going to actually do this, is split all of these wools. So split the one for the face, the one for the body, split that into 2, each of them into 2 equal piles, but not the coat colours, because the coat colours are already split. So all the other wools, split them into 2 equal piles for each cow. And you probably will have some wool left over, so don't worry if you do. So take one of your piles of core wool, push all the other wools aside for the other cow, and we're going to take a section of that wool, quite a large clump, that sort of, if you squash it in your hands, and we're going to roll it really tightly. The tighter you roll this, the easier it is, or the quicker it is to felt something. So you roll it nice and tightly, and this is a carded wool, so it will felt quite quickly. And then take I took the green needle there. I was just testing out which one's better. So the green needle is the slightly thicker, bigger needle. It's the 36. And I've just put these Fimo clay things on the top of mine to make them easier to hold. It's something, there's lots of videos on my channel. Go to my beginner playlist and it'll talk you through how to do all these things, and talk you through wools and needles and everything. Keep your hands where you can see them. Do not put your fingers in the wool like that, because you will definitely hurt yourself. So finger guards on if you are a beginner until you feel comfortable, but just keep your fingers away. So we're just going to be stabbing in and out in the same direction as you put the needle in and pull it out. I do have videos for your absolute first time felting if you want to go and watch that first, and it's a bit more real time and a bit slower. But start stabbing all the way over. My needle spacing is quite far apart with each stab at the moment. I am just bringing the wool together just to keep it in its shape, and we're aiming for, I sort of say, it's a bit of a sphere shape, almost like a toilet roll on the inside. and we're going to want to have it a little bit bigger. I'll give you measurements as we go along, so don't worry. And I felted it through the middle a bit, and then I'm doing each end. Now in wool you will get vegetable matter, which is bits of straw, bits of grass. They cannot get everything out. So if it's a big bit, pull it out because your needle might hit it. But if it's small and it's on the inside, don't worry, just keep felting over it. So I'm doing each end. I'm keeping my fingers away. Do you see how far in the needle is going with each stab? So be really, really careful. And I am speeding some of this up because it's going to be really boring. It's long enough as it is. But I did try to include most of what I was doing. So the measurement here is 3.5 to 3.25 inches, and then 2 to 2.5. Now this is still really soft, so we're going to felt it a bit firmer, but we want it to definitely be a bit wider. So take another section, and I've sort of pulled it, lengthened it out a bit, and then I'm wrapping it round nice and tight, trying to keep it quite smooth. And then you see I'm just felting across sort of where the end bit was, and it basically seals it. Now in the future, if you really enjoy your felting, this clover pen is fantastic. It's got 2 40 triangular needles in it, and it speeds up your work. And I'm just demonstrating this really, really quickly to show you there's ways to speed up the start of your work. Enjoy these kits with your single needles, but if you want to do more, then look towards getting multi-needle tool holders. And then this one's got 4 in it, and I have a whole video on multi-needle tools. But there are ways to speed up the beginning process. However, needle felting does take time. But for this video, I'm going to be using the single needle just to show you that it's, perfectly fine. And these cows take me at least an hour and a half each. If you're a beginner, it'll probably take a bit longer. And just do one in one day and maybe one in the next day. Don't overdo it. Just take your time. And you always improve with each felt, so your second cow will be better than your first. So I'm just going all the way over the wool here, each end, and then all the way around the middle, but the gap and the spacing is still quite far apart. So I'm not really felting it finely, I'm just sort of keeping it all together. And you can see all the holes and the gaps. So just under 4, and we're going to felt it down a bit more so it will get smaller. And I'd say just under 3 inches here. So now I want to firm it up a bit more. So we're going to take, I'm using the green needle, which is the 36. You can do an awful lot with a 36 and a 38 needle. And you can see now the distance between my stabbing is a lot closer. We're going to take our time and go all the way over this. I'm not pushing it in really deeply, but it is still going in quite far. You don't have to do great big massive stabs, and it's like tapping almost. And just go all the way around it, and you can see it's really starting to firm up a bit. And so I do a bit, I sort of go around the middle, then I go to the ends, then I go back to the middle. I sort of jump about. It depends on how tired my hand is, what feels more comfortable. So you can see I'm working around the middle here. Now I do not go right to the end. I'll show you in a minute how we do the sort of the corner bits, just to help it keep its shape. So I'm just popping between the end and the middle bits, and so I leave that edge bit there. So I work all the way around there, and then I work all the way up to it, and now we're going to firm it down. It's so we don't lose all that definition, and I just find that's a little bit easier to keep your ends with that nice flat bit. It doesn't have to be a sharp end as well. You're going to sort of smooth it over as we go around here. So as you can see, I've speeded this up again as well. So it probably takes me a good 15 minutes to go all the way over it. Now it's 3.5 and it's a little bit short. So yours might not be 4. You don't want it any more than 4 inches in length. So I'm just going to add a bit of wool, and I've literally just put it in my hand and squashed it up, taking out the vegetable matter again. And I'm just sort of plopping it on the end there, and you'll see as I turn it down to the side, it's sort of overlapping a bit just at the edges to help attach it. Now we don't need to worry about any join marks with the wool because it's all going to be covered up. So as you can see, I'm just going to go around that and then just spend a bit of time firming it up. Now it's a moderate firmness. It's not really, really hard, just to show you. You can see it's squidgy. It's still a bit squidgy in the middle, but it's not loose and you can attach a coat to it. So now we're going to do the inside of the head, well, underneath the forelock, the head bit that you can't really see. So we're going to take this wool that you've already set aside for one of your cows, and this is the head one. So it's a carded wool and it's mixed with the ginger and the black in it. It's a lovely, lovely mix. And we're going to roll it up. I did a little twist on the end as I rolled it, just to give me something to roll it over. And I'm keeping it nice and flat, and I've literally just rolled and rolled, and this shape has formed. Now we're going to just felt along the edge so it stays together, and then I'm going to decide what's going to be the back of the head and what's going to be the nose. And sometimes it's just obvious, other times you might just have to make a decision. Now that end bit looks quite flat, so I'm going to keep that for the back of the head, which we're going to put the ears onto. And see, that's looking a little bit rounder, so I'm going to have that as the nose. So just start to felt it all together, and I'm using the red needle, which is the slightly finer needle, and I'm going to do this as a nice flat bit. You just literally felt down into it, because you're parallel to where your fingers are, because you're going up and down, you shouldn't be stabbing your fingers, but do wear finger guards if you feel happier, and just, you know, do be really careful at this point. So I'm just going to felt this all the way down and across, and it just starts to guide it into a flat bit. You can hold it with your finger there and do one half and then move your finger to the other side. Some people use especially if it's a fine thing, they'll use tweezers, or you can use another needle to hold it still. So this is going to be the nose end. So I'm just bringing it together, and I'm just going to try and get an angle going downwards. So the felt will move into the direction you're felting it. So you can kind of shape something as you're doing it. I also use my fingers and do quite a lot of squidging too. So I'm just gently felting that down, but I'm felting it more at an angle. I'm not felting it flat against it, like that's the back, and that I was felting flat down into it. And then we're going all the way around. So a rough size at the moment, it's about 1.5 inches in length, and it's a little bit too short and a little bit too narrow. So we're going to add some more all the way around the head. And I've just taken a section which was probably about 4 inches in length, maybe a little bit more. Don't want it too thick, and I'm just going to add it on. It's best if you little and often rather than too much. You can pull wool off if it's too much, but it's quite hard, especially after you've felted it for a bit. Like right now, I could just pull this off. That would be fine. If I've worked on it for a couple of minutes, I wouldn't be able to. So again here, I'm just attaching that extra bit of wool. I'm just sort of securing it on lightly before we go over it and firm it all the way over. And we're going to add a bit for the nose because it's looking a little bit short. So we're going to take a little section, not very big, and we're going to keep the edges of it fluffy. Just pop it on your mat, sort of push it all together. And then you're just going to felt the middle section. Do not felt the edges too much because you want those to help you attach it to the nose. I'm literally capping the end of the head, basically. So I'm just felting it through a little bit just to bring it together. Be very careful if you pull wool with your needle because needles can break. So I've just pulled it together a little bit, and then I'm just going to place that over the end, and it's just going to extend the nose a little bit. And then I'm going to spread the fluffy side bits down the sides so that it merges quite nicely. Now it is going to be covered up by the sort of coat section afterwards, so don't worry about the join marks. And it is carded wool, so it's really forgiving for joining stuff. The coat is a tops wool, and the body and the head and the ears, that's all a carded wool. So top's wool looks like hair, and is quite hard to actually felt. So that was I think it was 2.5, 2.25, 2.5, but it's still quite big because we haven't firmed it up. So now we're just going to take the red needle, which I think is the 38 triangular, and we're just going to spend some time going all the way over it. Now be very gentle on the nose. You don't want to squash the nose flat or anything like that, but I'm just starting to firm it up. So quite often I like to do each side of the face, and you'll see in a minute I'll squeeze it so the whole head is sort of narrower and more up and down. So you can do quite a bit of squeezing. I'm just showing you a little bit of a close-up to show you how close my needle marks the stabbing is, and you can really see the difference as it's starting to felt together there. And the felting that we're doing here is a moderate firmness. You can definitely felt things a lot firmer. So see, I'm squidging it a bit so it's a little bit narrower and taller. So I like to do 2 sides. Make sure it's not sort of coming out the back, so flatten the back off again. And then I'll do the top and bottom. So 2 sides, and then I'll do the top and bottom. And I have forwarded this because it's really boring for you to sit all the way through it. So again, I'm probably thinking it took me at least 10 minutes to go all the way over it, maybe 15. And you see I'm squidging it to get that nose shape as well. So I've gone all the way over it, and that's the nostril area there. So we're going to do this little nostril bit. So you need a tiny bit. So this is the one I'm actually using is lighter than yours. Yours should be slightly darker, but I've run out of the other one. So a tiny little bit, and we're going to fold it over, almost like a little sort of button size. So you've got the nice folded edges, so you've folded it all the way over, not too thick. If it's too thick, start again. Hopefully you've probably got enough wool, or pull it apart. You do not want it to be too big. And so I'm just felting it down onto the mat, and I'm going to sort of push these fluffy end bits in. You could fold them under as well if you find that easier, but I'm just trying to get a rounded stroke oval shape. Just showing you a little close up the way I'm just sort of pushing these end bits in and down just to sort of get that shape. And then, so just push the other end, and then you can hold it between your fingers and felt the edges. Now put the finger guards on if you haven't been doing this long. And then once you're sort of starting to form that shape by felting the edges in, see, I'm just making sure that they're not sort of popping out. That's where it's going to go. It's a bit fluffy, so we're going to smooth it down a bit, and then we're going to attach it and smooth it a whole lot more. So I've sort of shaped the edges a little bit, and now I'm going to go all the way over it and just flatten it down once more whilst it's on my mat. So just spend a little bit of time going over it. I'm still doing the edges as well, just sort of keeping them in so they don't sort of pop out. And honestly, this really is just practice. So I'm quite happy with it. It is about 3/4 of an inch in width and probably about no more than 1/2 an inch high. So pop it on your nose. It's going to go right on the end of the nose, almost a little bit lower than higher. It's not midway. And then felt all the way through the middle, mind your fingers. But so I'm going to felt it onto the nose all the way through the middle before we shape the edges and neaten them up. So I'm using the red needle, going all the way around. So the blue needle is a spiral, and I've just popped that in because I want you to try it eventually because it's my most favourite needle, but you don't have to use it on this project. But anyway, so the nose is roughly on. It's too big, so we're going to neaten the edges, and as we neaten them, they will felt inwards. So you're felting, not at right angles, but you're felting right against it. And see how that's just starting to neaten that edge bit. See there? And so going all the way along the top, so we go all the way round, and then we're going to felt it again. See, I just speeded this up. See how it just neatens it perfectly, and you can start to form the shape that you want. So we've gone all the way around the edge, and now we're just going to round off the edges because it's still sticking out a bit. So just, you can felt it downwards now from the top, and that will just round the edges and make it look like it's properly attached to the nose rather than just sitting on top of the nose. And again, this is just detail work, is honestly just practice, practice, practice. And felt it all the way around, and then we're just going to do a teeny little, I sort of squidge it a bit with my hands. If it looks a bit unlevel, you can, you know, level it to a small degree, and then we're going to do a tiny little dimple in the top. Now you could accentuate this and make this a bit bigger, but I sort of don't bother. It's just a little tiny downward felting motion in the top bit, and it creates a little dimple. And then this is the dark brown, so take 2 tiny little bits of wool, roll them between your fingers. If you take them together at the same time, you'll probably get them at the same, they'll be the same size, so it makes your life a bit easier to do them together. And then we're just going to put it in the middle-ish if you can. See how I placed it and then took my finger away and felted it down. See if you can do that. Otherwise, trying to hold it with your finger there is a little bit tricky. And again, I really apologize if I make it look easy to just felt it in, but I've been doing this a while. So you just felt. You might squidge the edge in a bit with your needle, just be really, really careful. And I find that if I do one, it's easier for me because I'm right-handed to have it on this side. And then to do the other one, I'll turn it upside down. So you can see there, it's just sort of felted in. So I turn it upside down. It's just easier for me to do it on that side rather than to try and felt it going across my fingers. And again, pop it there and then just try and felt it. Now this one looks a tiny bit bigger, but I sort of keep felting it in a bit, keep moving the edge in, and it evens up. Now if they're really irregular and looking really odd, you can add one more to the smaller one, or you can literally pull the big one off and start again. So I've just turned it around to check that it's looking level, because this is upside down, and just keep felting it in. There we go. So that is the nose done. Next up, we are going to attach it straight to the body before we do the ears and the tail. And just remember, all this groundwork seems to take a while, but as soon as you start adding the coat, you are nearly done. So we're going to take the head and we're going to hold it in position. It's sort of half on the body, half off with the head size. And you're going to felt downwards through the ginger wool, or the red, well, whatever colour you want to call it, and into the white wool. So you can see it a bit better on this side. So you're going to take the thicker needle, the 36, and you're going to stab, stab, stab all the way down and all the way around the back. And we are just loosely attaching it before we're going to attach a piece of wool around the neck to help it to strengthen that join. Keep your fingers away, because if you're holding around the front of the chest of the cow, you might stab yourself. So it's loosely attached at the moment. I like to add a little bit more wool. So take a section of the head colour wool and then halve that section lengthways is the easiest way to do it. And then wrap it around like a scarf. I say this all the time on my videos. And we are going to use that because it's kind of half, it's touching the head and it's touching the body. So if you felt all the way around, it gives you a really nice, good join. The only thing is it does take a while to felt all the way around it. And sometimes you think, oh, this isn't strengthening, but just keep going, keep going. Don't worry about those lines because that's going to be covered up. All right, so it's all going to be covered up by that long hair. So felt all the way through the bit into the head and the bit into the body, and it sort of dips in sometimes, and if you think it's not strong enough you could add a bit more, but this is absolutely fine for this cow. It's perfectly strong enough, and it did take easily a good 5 minutes to go all the way around, and then do a couple of really big stabs through the back of the head. So it's attached. I mean, if I was doing a piece that was bigger, I would spend a lot more time joining it, but this little cow, it's absolutely fine. So we're going to do the ears. So take 2 small sections and then literally, so equal size, And then literally I just curved it round and back on itself, and you hold on to the end bits and stab through that circular bit, that curved bit. So leave yourself, if you're holding on to it, you're not going to stab it. Obviously don't stab your fingers, but this is literally the shape of the ear here. And I just curled it back on itself. I just did a little circle and then held on to the fluffy bits. You'll see the fluffy bits in a minute. And you're just going to felt it through. See those fluffy bits? Hold on to those. Those help us attach it to the back of the head. So you just felt through, and it does get stuck to your mat. Don't worry about it. We're going to peel, literally scrape. So this helps keep the ear together. Scrape it off the mat. And sometimes I get little bits of hairs off my mat, so I just pull them out. And then we're going to felt down the other side. And you can see it's starting to form. And so go over it and felt the other side. Spend a bit of time, and this helps flatten it out. See which needle you're more comfortable with. So I've moved on to the red needle, which is the finer needle, and back to the green. Just have a play around with needles, because some people like different needles. So, you know, don't think I've got to use this needle for that. It's whatever feels best. You want the needle to do some work, to actually felt something, but you don't want too much resistance when you stab in. So if you had a thick needle on something really well felted, it probably wouldn't go in that easily. And you'd get the feeling of a resistance, but it comes with time. You will learn the feeling of needles. So I've just gone through, felted that side, and then I think I'll peel it off again and just check, because sometimes when you stab through, you can stab bits of fluff through to the other side. Just do very shallow felting if you can. And then I was just, if the edges of it are sticking out, you just turn it on its side and very carefully felt the edges in a bit. But hopefully with this method, it shouldn't be too bad. It should be fairly circular already. And then I'm felting it through again because I want it to be even flatter. There's ways in which you can make ears really flat by applying heat. So I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm having a drink of tea. I really apologise. I didn't edit that bit out. I do like my tea. So I'm felting it through for the third time, or felting it over for the third time until I'm happy with it. And it's a little bit flatter, and I don't have too much fluff sticking out from the underside every time you turn it over. So we'll pick it up, so it's pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that. And then we're just going to fold it in half. See, there we go, little ear. So we're going to fold it in half like that, and then felt through, leaving all of that fluffy stuff. So at the base of the ear, you're going to felt in a line going down, and this helps keep the ear in that bent shape, and that's how we're going to attach it to the back of the head. So pull it off the mat, and there you go, you've got your ear. So do the other one. There we go, 2 ears, and we're going to attach them. So I like them sticking out from the side of the head. I like them pointing down. I've always said you can play around, have them pointing forwards, but these guys have so much forelock that you don't actually see the ears that much. So I think it's easier if they're pointing down, and you're going to hold it in place. It's quite tricky. It's a little bit awkward, and I'm felting the line down just to make sure it's straight, and then felt all that fluffiness into the back of the head, and that helps attach it. Get the other ear, check it's in the same position on the other side, and then felt it down. If it's wrong and they're really wonky, you can pull them off really easily and start again. So those are the ears. Next we're going to do, we've done the head, nose, ears, horns and tail. And like I said, I don't know where you're up to, but have a break. If you haven't had a break, go and have a break. So this is the horns. So take one of the pipe cleaners, fold it in half. It'll end up at being about 5 to 6 inches in length. I like to just twist it so it stays together. And the very end bit, I don't like the sharp bits of the pipe cleaner, so I just bend over the end and squish it nice and flat with your fingers. So my pipe cleaners are great because you can squish it all really well with your fingers. And then take the white wool, which is in what we call slithers. It's like rope, not rope, it's like thick rope, I suppose. And then, so take a section. Now this white is a lovely wool. It's a really good price and it felts really well, but it does have quite a lot of vegetable matter. And so I thinned out one piece. So I took a section off and then I halved the section lengthways. So it's nice and thin. Just go small and thin. And we are working from the middle out. And I can feel, so I'm keeping it nice and flat, wrapping it round. And I can feel I had a little bit too much wool there. So I want to go slightly past the end of the pipe cleaner, but not too far, because I like to have it. So I've literally gone probably about ½ centimetre over, and then take your needle. I'm using the green needle, but I think the red needle will be better in a minute. Yeah. Finer needle works better at this point. It helps you catch the hairs better. And I'm just felting that end bit, and I'm going in at 45 degrees to the pipe cleaner. So be very careful not to hit the pipe cleaner too hard, because you could break your needle. And then just felt along, and you'll see it's attached. So it's worked really well. And we're just going to spend a little bit of time on the very end. So I'm just going to felt the end bit down, and then I might have a tiny bit left at the top, and I might just sort of fold that over or felt it downwards. So I can feel I've definitely covered the pipe cleaner. If you haven't, get a tiny bit of wool and just add it on the very, very tip. And literally, I mean a tiny bit, and then roll it slightly past the end of the pipe cleaner. So this is the first layer, and we're going to add another layer to make the horns thicker at the base. Now, your pipe cleaners are white. If it's your first time doing this and the end of the pipe cleaner shows a teeny bit, don't worry, it's absolutely fine. And children cannot play with these items, by the way, because they are not child friendly at all. So if there's a tiny bit of a pipe cleaner sticking out, I'm sure no one's going to notice. So I've taken a little section of the wool, nice and flat, and I'm going 3/4 of the way up now. So I'm just making it thicker towards the base, and then it sort of thins out. You don't want the tip of your pipe the tip of your horns to be too thick. And then we're going to just felt it down roughly and attach it. We're going to go over the whole thing in a minute and make it look a lot neater. So that's one side. So do the other. So I got it's called a slither or slither. Some people like to call it slithers, but I call it slithers. Get the vegetable matters out, because these pieces the dark pieces will show, because it's white wool and it's the horns. And so we're wrapping all the way up, and you'll see again, I go slightly past the pipe cleaner. I like to sort of wrap, and then twizzle. I don't know why, but it just wraps it better in my fingers that way. So just do it however you feel comfortable. So I've gone past the pipe cleaner again, and then we're just going to roughly felt the end down a bit. And then it was a little bit thin, so we're going to add a bit more, sort of going 3/4 of the way up. And this is all, roughly felted on. And then we're going to do a little close up, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time smoothing the whole thing out. You don't have to, but I think it makes it look a lot better. So take a fine needle, and you're literally going to stab closely together now and roll. So stab and roll, trying to almost keep it even as you're going. And I have to go back further out in a minute, you'll see. But you can see, if I hold it up, see how I've started to compact that end bit together, and we're going to work our way all the way down. I find it to go into the center and then turn it over and go into the center again is the best way to do it. So this does take easy 10 minutes. So just take a bit of time and just enjoy the process, because it is a sort of meditative, repetitive process. And there we go, smooth it out. Don't worry about the middle bit, because that's going to be covered up. And any really straggly hairs, just get a pair of scissors and trim it off. So there we go, that's the horns done. And now the tail is much easier. I just think it's nice that the horns are nice and smooth. So I do like to spend a bit of time. So the tail is just take a pipe cleaner, bend it in half and cut it. Normal pair of scissors will cut it fine. And then we're going to fold it not in half, a little bit longer than in half. So fold it there, that was a bit short. So it's about 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches in length. I think I get the ruler and double check. So there we go, nearly 4 inches, 3.5. It just gives you enough to be able to sort of attach it and curl it around the corner. So take some of the head colour, and I slimmed it down again with the slither. I sort of pulled some off, and then I split it lengthways to make it thinner and even. And we're just going to wrap it round, wrap it round. It does not have to be as neat as the horns at all, because there's only a little bit sticking out, and we do need to attach the tail hair to it. So, and I've got a bit of a lump at the end there, so I'm going to even it out in a minute. So just loosely felt it on, rolling and turning, felting and turning, not rolling and turning, that's the same thing. So that bit there is all a bit skinny, so I'm just gonna, I split it again because it's better if it's thinner, it really is. So wrap it round and then take the needle, and I don't spend nearly as long, probably about a minute just going over it, just checking it's all secured, and then I roll it between my hands. That seems to, well, it starts the felting motion. If you were like wet felting, that's how you would wet felt. And then take, so tops, you can't pull if your hands are close together. Move your hands further apart. Now we only want a very small little section for the tail. And if it feels like you've pulled off a massive clump, then split it lengthways as well and make it smaller. But you'll see what I'm trying to do in a minute. So we're going to felt through the middle and attach it to the very thin tail, which you'll think, Pippa, that won't work, but it does. So you're going up about 1 centimetre, and you're going to take your thicker needle, that's right, and you're just going to felt this wool down onto the tail, and it sort of spreads its way all the way around, which is quite nice. You can turn it over and felt the back, and it does attach. So just spend about 30 seconds felting it all the way around in a line. It doesn't have to completely cover the back of it, you'll see in a minute, but it does attach it, and it gives a really lovely little tail effect when we fold it down. So it's halfway through the section of the piece that you've got, and make sure it's attached. I mean, you can fold it down and just have a little check and then unfold it and felt a bit more if you're not happy with it. So just keep felting it through, and amazingly it manages to attach to that tiny bit of wool. And then when you fold it down, I think it's lovely. It's really pretty. Nice little sort of witch's broomstick or something as well. So it sort of smooths out quite nicely. I normally cut off the ends because they're just too long, but you could leave them and just try and trim it. I do it into a little point, but it doesn't always stay that way. So the little back bit, see how there's a little gap? It doesn't really notice, but I sometimes just pull those two bits together and give it a tiny little felt with the needle, and then see how the point's gone. So I just give it another trim. And then that's the tail all ready. We won't attach it yet. I'm going to start doing the coat, which, like I said, you know, you're nearly there. So that's how the tail will go on in a bit. So we've done the horns, we've done the tail, the ears are on. We are now going to do the coat. So get rid of your mat first thing, because your mat will rough up the hair. You really have to treat this top's wool gently, okay? And I've got matching nails. I don't know if anyone noticed. It matches the wool. So I've got Yarndale coming up this weekend. So I wanted it done. I think the ladies in the nail studio thought I was a little bit mad, but so take a section of the wool, just pull it out. It's probably about 6 inches at least in length, and we're going to felt halfway through it, and it's going to be a line, sort of like a low skirt on the Highland cow. So it's halfway down the body. So we're covering the lower half of the body first, basically, because otherwise it would show through when we do the top bit. So we're going to felt in a line, and you're going to go over and over this line, probably about 2 or 3 times to make sure it's attached. And this is the reason you felted the body nice and firm, because if you didn't felt the body firm enough, you wouldn't be able to attach the coat. And so just felt all the way through that line. It doesn't take too long. And I'm using the green needle because it'll stab it nice and deep for you. And then once it's attached, you're going to fold it down. It's so pretty. The colours are just beautiful. And I just pull the ends together. Sometimes I just turn them, twist them over, and then just felt the ends on. You don't need to overly felt this bit. They'll stick really easily. And you'll see as we go how you have to start felting the ends underneath. So at the moment it's fine. So take another section. So that's a 6-inch ruler. So it was about 7, with all the fluffy bits, it was about 7 inches in length. And so I'm going around the back, so nice and low, well, halfway up the body, felting it round, and then folding it down and just twisting it underneath. And then we're going to do the next bit, and so there's 2 more sections. It normally works out quite well, but when I've done the next one, just to show you, I twist it round and back on itself, and now I have to felt it right underneath the cow. I can't go up the side because it would show. So now I have to felt it, twist it and felt it right underneath, and it's okay to have a little messy bit right underneath the cow at the bottom. No one's going to criticise you for that, and it would be really difficult to get it perfect. And I do quite a lot of these cows. I put on wood slices and they just look really nice. So that's that bit underneath, and then I've got one more bit to go around the front. So that's the front bit. So sort of tease it round and under, and then give it a little twist, and then felt it down, and that's all the base bit done. So when you put the top line on, it looks really neat. So we're going to do under the neck in 2 sections. So I'm pulling a section out, and then I'm holding it in place. So we're going to felt right in under the neck. But what I'm going to do with this section, if you notice, I just pulled it up a little bit so that about 1/3 was at the bottom, 1/3, and then 2/3 were further up. So this 3rd bit is going to be underneath the top coat, the top side. So I'm felting right in and under and up to the ear. So yeah, just watch this bit maybe before you do it. But that way, when you fold it down, the long bit will go all the way down and under. So you see how that's a short section? Now I've got that nice long bit to go all the way down and under around the front, and that really helps cover all the way down and round. And then I give it a little twist and just felt it at the bottom, and that just secures it. And it's the same on the other side. So see how, again, that's quite a short section there under at the lower end. So it'll give me that nice long bit there, and I just sort of tease it out at the front because that's the bit that's going to show where it meets the other one. And it almost works better with the coloured cow than it does with the other one. It looks so nice. And then just twist it underneath again. And as I said, you just handle this top spool really gently. You don't ever comb it. If you ever need to tease it, use a felting needle. It looks all big and fluffy, but don't worry, he'll look in proportion when he's done. So now we're going to add the tail before we do. And I've changed the way in which I do this. I used to add the tail at the end. But take some of, well, it doesn't matter, you could take white wool either here. Oh yeah, and then this little bit, sometimes it doesn't quite catch under the ear. So just felt it upwards and just make sure it's definitely caught under the ear. Most of the time it's fine, it doesn't even notice. So hold the tail in position. It's going to sort of curl round the body. So you want about, I don't know, 1 inch or 1 centimetre sticking up there, that you really gently felt either side of the pipe cleaner, just a little bit, just to attach it on. Then take, that's what I've done there, a little section of wool, place it over the top and very carefully felt either side of the pipe cleaner. This is the real time that I break my needle, is attaching a tail. I don't know why. I think it's because I hit the pipe cleaner head on rather than at an angle when I'm doing the horns. So I go all the way around it very, very carefully. And then you've felt all that fluffy wool in at the side. And then once you've felted it all in, you can very gently do a few bits sort of over the top of the pipe cleaner, or trying not to hit it, sort of going either side. But these edge bits should really help attach the tail anyway. So just sort of felt it in. So there we go, and give it a little tug. It's definitely in. And we won't attach the tail underneath yet. We're going to do a little bit across the bottom, and this just helps cover the bottom up nicely, because otherwise it's quite hard to get the angles right on the wool. So take a section, nice long bit, and then halfway through, there's no a third and a 2/3, halfway through the section in the middle, felt above the sort of top of the tail, or the top, very tip of the pipe cleaner, in a line going across. So just felt it through like you were attaching it to the body earlier, at least 2 or 3 times all the way across to make sure it's definitely attached. And then once it's attached, we are going to split the bottom section in half gently. Pull the tail out. And then split the top section. So these bits are going to go around the tail. And I think it gives a nice effect. And very gently sort of tease it underneath. And then a little bit of stabbing just to secure those ends in. You really don't need to stab the underneath of this absolutely loads, you know, it just sort of catches really well. And then spread it gently and down over the other side. You're going to do some more of the top in a minute anyway. And then the very bit by the tail, if it's not quite covered, I sort of can gently pull bits in and down, just in case there was a bit of white showing. It shouldn't be, but there we go. So we're going to try and pull out a slightly longer section than you've been pulling by a couple of inches, so that it will go down both sides. And now I'm just going through it. I really don't like that big orange patch, so I'm trying to decide which way up to do this. I do not want that bright orange. So you can see it's going to come down and around the bottom. It doesn't, you know, it's not like really long, but you can pull out the wool slightly longer than you want it to be sometimes. And then felt a top line all the way through the middle. And then we're going to get another nice long section. If you can pull it out slightly longer than you did for the body, that means just holding your hands further apart. Again, I'm deciding that orange is looking, there's a lot of orange in this section. So just going to twist it around, work out where to put the orange. And it's going to go, so I haven't done the sides of the first one. I'm putting them both on, and then I'm going to sort out the sides, taking them down and underneath. And it goes just to the top of the tail as well. You don't go too far down, just to the top of the tail section that you added. And then you're going to felt all the way through, making sure it's definitely attached. And it's nice to have that little straight line at the top, because Highland cows have a nice little top line. So felt it all the way down. And then now I'm going to take both sections and very carefully just sort of smooth them out with your hands and wrap it underneath. Don't, you know, you're not pulling it too tight. You're just letting it sort of bubble around the body, and then felt the underneath in. And you'll see that, and this is the other side. And I'm just spreading them out so they sort of definitely merge, definitely cover any white bits. If you had any big gaps, you could take some more wool and do a little bit more, a sort of thinner layer over the top. Again, trying to pull out quite a long section, and see that's the underneath. And I think we'll just attach that. I like to do this with a towel. You don't need to. I just sort of squidge it round to the side And then I felt the underneath of it into the body, and it just keeps it in position. Otherwise, sometimes it can just stick out the back. So I'm just a few stabs sort of underneath it, leaving the edge fluffy, and it sort of sits quite neatly like that. It's up to you. You might not want to do that. So now we're nearly finished. We're going to attach the horns. I like to take the head colour when you do this. And you're going to, so little section of the head colour ready. So the horns are going to go quite far towards the back of the head, and in between the ears or on top of the ears, and felt either side of the pipe cleaner. I've got the green needle, which is the slightly thicker one, and just gently either side, and we're just going to see, is this the position we want the horns to be in? Are we happy? Yes. If it's not in the middle, then just pull them off and start again. And then take the wool and put it all the way over the top, and then felt behind the horns in a line, just in the line back there, and then in front of the horns in a line. So, you're not directly stabbing the pipe cleaner too much yet. We will, do a little bit on the top. So, and then just felt all that fluffy wool into the back of the head, neaten it up. And then all of this wool, just felt it backwards and away from the very front of the nose, because you don't want it poking out or showing. And again, this helps strengthen the horns attachment, so it works well. So just felt it all in. I'm always moving things around with my hands. And just making sure that line just down there, that really helps keep the horns nice and strong and firmly attached. And then again, go back over the line. And then I will sometimes do a little bit of felting over the top, just to make sure that the wool is attached to the horns as well. Not too much, just a little bit. So they're attached, that's good. And then we're going to take the head section. So this bit, you want the nice top side, that side, to show. I don't want all that orange. So this is going to go, you'll see, just watch me do it first. So you'll felt right in a line back there, and then fold it forwards. So the top, the underneath is going to show, if you see what I mean. So felt in a line all the way through the back. Make sure this is nicely attached and low to the back of the head, so you don't have a gap. If you have a gap, you can just pull it off and move it down a bit and start again. So felt it right in to the back of the base of the head. Make sure it's attached. Now this one is going to go to one side, whatever side you want, and then that's going to be the top. So that's why I did it upside down, if you see what I mean, to the side I wanted. So sweep it down and under, and back up under the chin and back up to the ear. This is going to be covered up. And so just gently felt that in. And then this side is going to come down and round. So swoop it down and right under, and then hide it in there. And it's so simple, but he looks good. And then just felt it in and under. And then I like to squeeze his nose straight, make sure the horns are curved. I squeeze his nose back a bit, and then I slightly pull those two bits forwards, just to cover the nose a little bit more. And there you go. That is your little Highland cow. So you can do them in all sorts of colours. So go and check out my kits. I have lots more kits on my website and on my Etsy shop, and lots more PDFs and online courses as well for the more advanced felter. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like lots more tips and hints. And thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Bye.